We all rely on next day delivery. We all expect everything, instantly in this modern world. And really, to be part of something that was bringing so much change to the human species is, I suppose, is I want to make an impact. I don't want to do something that doesn't matter. And I feel like in logistics, I've found my way to make a difference.
Welcome to Chain Reaction, the podcast for the supply chain and logistics industry. If you enjoy this conversation, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Chain Reaction podcast. I'm Michael, CEO of Flocks Logistics Marketplace. This is podcast brought to you by Flocks as a way to engage with logistics and supply chain professionals and to explore the ideas, people, and businesses that are shaping the industry. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow, reach more people, and value practical conversations about logistics and supply chain. Today, I'm joined by Joshua Hegarty, founder and CEO of Cloud9 Fulfillment. Joshua has built a fast-growing fulfillment business, serving e-commerce brands with a strong focus on operational performance and customer experience. Joshua, great to have you here.
Hi, Michael. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me on the show.
Joshua, is an interesting origin story I'd like to explore with you. So you
A little
have
bit
been
different.
yes, you have been a professional poker player, and now you've set up and run a logistics business. How did that happen?
It's quite the transition, isn't it, Michael? So yeah, thanks for asking, by the way. It's a story I like to tell. So yeah, in university I studied business, but I quickly found myself doing particularly well at the poker tables outside of university life, and um, that led me down a road that perhaps my parents weren't so keen on. I dropped out of university to become a professional poker player, and was hard at that line of work for about 10 years. A really interesting time in my life, a lot of travel involved, going all over the world to play tournaments in different locations. Um, Met all sorts of interesting people, many of whom I'm still friends with today. So yeah, really, really interesting. And it's not a natural transition to jump into the logistics space from the poker space, but at the time I made the move, I had a young family, and I was spending so much time away from them that I needed something more grounded and based in the UK. So yeah, I jumped in, as I do with everything I do, with both feet, straight in there, and rented a warehouse, set up Cloud9 Fulfillment with the idea and the vision that we would provide an exceptional level of fulfillment service to customers here in the UK and further afield as well, to deliver their products to the end user. And the main reason for picking logistics as an industry was because my dad was an antiques dealer growing up, and he did very well for himself. But one of the things I noticed was, for every sale that he got, he had to go and find a precious item to sell, and it relied on him, to find those individual items. So it wasn't that scalable. So when I was looking for an industry to ground myself in, logistics appealed to me because it was infinitely scalable, and that's really what I'm all about: is finding that opportunity that I can run with, that I can scale and build into something, for the future. So I founded Cloud9, and since that day, we've never looked back.
No, very interesting. On logistics, I was wondering as you were describing the story, and we talked about that before. I wondered whether that was the love of numbers or your travels kind of taught you the complexity of kind of just moving about and having things being moved about, and that was in addition to the scale, it's also the complexity and the sheer kind of the size of the task attracted you.
Very much so. I'm a numbers guy through and through. Complexity and problem solving is a huge part of what gets me going. Really, really enjoy that aspect of my role. Um, yeah, logistics to me, I mean, it's so key to the way that we live our modern lives. Product movement. We all rely on next day delivery. We all expect everything, instantly in this modern world. And um, really, to be part of something that was bringing so much change to the human species is, I suppose, is I want to make an impact. I don't want to do something that doesn't matter. And I feel like in logistics, I've found my way to make a difference, to make a real impact, and to be at the forefront of a developing industry, as it continues to grow.
Very interesting. I mean, I certainly want to explore a little bit more kind of the current sort of the market conditions, the customer sentiment, and where it goes. But I'd like to just before we go there, I wanted to ask you about the Cloud9. To an outsider looking in or browsing a website, let's say I'm a microbrewery and I'm looking for fulfillment services because I want to serve a B2C market. Um, from a web just looking at the website, it's very hard to differentiate one business from the other, I mean provider. So what makes Cloud9 special? What makes Cloud9 stand out in terms of the fulfillment services?
Mm. I'm glad you asked that question. It's one that most of the customers we speak to ask us as well, to be honest, and it's something we talk about a lot. The first thing I would say is people, because you need a strong base of people to build any business on. And we've grown Cloud9 out of a group of friends. You know, I've employed friends of mine as the business has grown, and that care and love for what we're doing is woven throughout the fabric of our company. Of course, we've now grown beyond just employing our friends, but we've really managed to keep that sort of family feel at the company. So that's the key point, I suppose, is having a base of people who are truly passionate about what they do, who really care about delivering exceptional service. Um, Off the back of that, I would also say innovation. You know, in such a fast-paced industry, logistics, everything changes all the time, and if you're standing trying to do what you've always done, you're soon going to be left behind. So um, we're agile. We're still a young company. We're very agile. We're very fast growing, and we're finding new ways to tackle problems and challenges that occur on a daily basis. For example, with the advent of AI, we're a really early adopter with that, and it's now woven into all sorts of different areas of our business. Everything from like our internal reporting. We've created our own software to provide us with metrics throughout the day, how we're performing as a business, how each staff member's performing, do they need support in a certain area? It's that innovation and that drive to find a better way to do things, I think that really pushes us to be different from the competition.
Well, tech is definitely very, very close to my heart as well. I mean, being and running vlogs, and this is exactly what we do as well. But I want to start with, because this is definitely an area that I'd like to discuss. I'd like us to discuss today. What drives it though is the customer demand and the customer sentiment. Is because you alluded to that. So the customers are demanding the next day delivery, at least, or maybe sometime in the same day delivery. So how would you describe kind of the current both the customer sentiment as well as the market conditions? Because we currently living through quite a challenging kind of economic state, and the markets depressed in some sense, and we have some global tensions. But if we park that, but like on the ground level, what do you see, and what is kind of the immediate future hold, you think, in terms of the customer demand, customer operations, customer desires? Both, I mean, by the customer, I mean your customers that need to fulfill their orders, as well as the customers that are on the receiving end of their orders, that the ones that actually want the next day delivery.
Mm. Okay, well, let's look at it the chain backwards here, because the demands of our customers are created by the demands of their customers. So if we start with the end user, the recipient of the goods, demands have never been higher. With uh, as you so rightly say, next day delivery is the industry standard now. If it's not next day, it's slow. So always managing to adhere to that next day delivery promise is a key aspect to any fulfillment business. And that means working in all sorts of ways. We're seeing cut-off times get pushed later, so we can offer that later collection time for our customers, and their customers in turn. That's a real driving force. And I just think that even the product presentation, it needs to be, everything needs to align for a brand to show its best colors. You need to have the packaging correct, you need to have the delivery carrier correct, you need to have the technology wrapped around that correct, you need to be keeping the customer informed as the package is on its way to them. All of these aspects add up to create a smooth and satisfying customer experience and a first time delivery success. And that's what it's all about. It's about removing those extra touch points. For example, a missed delivery that then has to go back to a depot, and it causes all sorts of issues from there on. We're really trying to get that parcel delivered first and foremost, the first time around. And there's all sorts of ways the industry is changing. I mean, you'll recognize, being in the industry as well, parcel lockers, what a great advent they've been for the industry and ensuring that the customer gets their goods at a convenient time to themselves. So I would say that that's the driving force behind everything, is that end customer, their expectations has raised the expectations of our customers, and forced us to raise our expectations for ourselves as well. And we, the customer makes the decision at the end of the day where they're going to spend their money, and we need to respect that. We need to deliver the service that they desire. So everything comes from that. The expectations of our customers, um, they want all of those things I've just spoken about, but more than that, they want us wrapped around them as an integral part of what they do. It's not a divorced partnership here. They're not buying electricity or gas and we're supplying it through a pipe work, and as long as the tap turns on, they're happy. That's not it at all. It's got to be a homogenous relationship between us and the brand themselves.
Very interesting. But what I would like to explore now is, because it looks like obviously it's a two-tier structure. I mean, two-tier the demand structure. So the customers and the customers of your customers, and that's kind of the requirements are driven through and through. But it is I'd like to explore the trade-offs between, because not all of your customers are the same. I'm not talking about products. I'm talking about the demands that they have, the attention they require, the specificity of the services they expect from you. um, it is much easier for a logistics business to meet requirements of a larger corporate, because it's a volume game, and it's easier to set up products, to set up processes, and kind of and meet even very, very constrained obligations. But when you have a multi-tenant business where you have lots of larger customers as well as some SMEs, and I actually wonder your perspective, kind of how small on an SME size you go, because the guy with a 10 pallet uh, storage business in still require the same level of attention, because it's very dear to their heart. It doesn't have to be jewelry or highly expensive goods. It could be, I don't know, craft beers or whatever, toys or something. But it's very important to them. They want to grow. They're all passionate, and they want also you to meet a very kind of stringent service requirements that their customers demand. So how do you meet sometimes slightly different requirements of variety of customers at the same high level of attention?
That's a great question, and um, it's a combination of factors really that form the answer. So you're very right, and that each and every customer, to them, their business is it's their baby. It's what they've put their heart and soul into, and I understand that completely. I get where they're coming from, and actually, I see my role as CEO at Cloud9 Fulfillment is to treat the stock that's within our warehouse like our own stock. I want to deliver the level of service that I would expect as a customer, any of the suppliers that we use. So um, it's pretty complex. I would say that the pieces that feed together are the expectation of the customer, and the level of specificity that they demand. We've got all sorts of different types of customers doing all sorts of different types of products. We do kitting. We even like component build some particular products for different clients, fairly simple components putting together, but nonetheless we complete their product. The manufacturing process actually happens on site. Um, and process is king when you're doing anything like this. If you're going to take on a process which is outside of your normal productivity, you need to very clearly define, to work in partnership with the client that you're serving, exactly what their expectations are. And then you need to create a robust process that's understandable, and you need to get buy-in from your staff when doing this as well. There's no point me going to my warehouse manager and telling him exactly how we're going to do something. I want to involve my staff in that decision-making process. How are we best going to do this? and documenting the process. Once you've got that process worked out, you need to document it so you don't drift from that process. If you want to make an edit to the process later, that's fine. You can go back and look at it. But from a starting point, you need to have a standardized process that you work to. And I guess it does depend on volume as well, because you're not going to introduce these complex processes for somebody doing 2 orders a week. It's just not going to happen. But for us, it's more about the potential of a business than it is about where they are today. So you asked about the size of company that we'll work with. Um, and I don't have any hard and fast limits on the type of business that we'll work with. It's more about the people involved with that business. What's their background? What's their experience? What are they bringing to the table in terms of ideas, in terms of growth potential? If I meet somebody and I believe in them and I think that they've got a great idea, a great product, they've got a marketing plan, everything's well thought out, and I'm more than happy to work with them to help them grow the business. And I kind of see that's where Cloud9 sits. There's lots of bigger players on the market than us. We're self-funded. We've never taken investment. We've done everything ourselves. But we've created something here that's quite different to anybody else. When I say we work in partnership and in concert with our customers, with our partners, I genuinely mean that. We want to understand on the deepest level what they desire for their customers, and we want to find a way to make that happen. So it's not always possible. You can't grant every wish a customer has, but you can certainly come to a best understanding that you can of what they're asking for, and then present the best plan to achieve that. And I spoke there a little bit about involving staff in decision-making process, and that's part of the ethos of Cloud9. We're very big on Kaizen here at the business. Every single staff member contributes in that way, brings forward ideas, and we're constantly evolving and developing these processes we put in place. So we're never standing still. It's all about movement. And at the end of the day, that's what logistics is, right? It's movement, but it's not just the goods. It's the way that we do the job that needs to move.
You are listening to Chain Reaction. This podcast is brought to you by Phlox, the leading marketplace for the supply chain and logistics industry. Visit phlox.is to find out how you find the perfect supplier or make your services available to prospective buyers. Thanks for tuning in. Now back to the show.
Exactly. I'm sure that there will be plenty of businesses that would really love to hear that they've loved hearing that you give attention to your customers regardless of their size, because it's not just the potential, it's just, well, it's, if something is very very close to their hearts, why are you to deny them the same level of focus, the same level of attention, the same level of service? Unfortunately, I've heard many times from the smaller businesses, they feel sometimes kind of overlooked, underappreciated, especially by bigger players. We touched earlier, and I want to kind of pivot into this space. We touched earlier, and you mentioned tech, and you mentioned AI, and I'm 100% sure that the tech plays quite a big role in terms of what you do, or quite a lot of those activities and the workflows and reporting and all of the other elements are underpinned by quite a sophisticated tech. So can you talk a little bit about that, and maybe also kind of give a bit of light on, there are tons of off-the-shelf solutions that are available for logistics and fulfillment businesses. Yet you mentioned that you've decided to build some of your own. So what drove that decision?
It's a complicated space we live in at the moment, and I would say, just to make it clear, we do use Dispatch Cloud as our software provider, our WMS, and they're a fantastic company to work with. We've used them since the launch of the business. Excellent support from those guys, and really recommend it to anyone looking to run a warehouse. Um, but every warehouse is different, right? You could go to 100 different fulfillment houses, and you would not find the exact same requirements across any two of them. I can be exactly sure of that. So whilst DC provide us with a great solution out of the box, to run our warehouse management system, we have our own requirements and our own way of wanting to work. And of course, they can't adjust to the way that everybody wants to work. So out of the back of that, we've started to build our own pieces of modular software. We're operating through APIs that link into DC and other softwares that we we utilize. And for me, it's all about data. It's back to those numbers again. It's all about information. The better the quality of the information that I've got, the better decisions that I can make. The more that I can interpret the data in front of me, the better the decisions that I can make. So for us, it's all about capturing that data, digesting it, running it through some AI engines which we've put together, and then putting it out in a meaningful way to the people who matter most. So that's the people who are actually doing the job, the warehouse managers, the people on the floor, so they can feedback on their own performance, find those like marginal gains that we all need to be efficient. And if we do make a mistake or if there is an error, that it's properly documented, investigated, solved, and resolved moving forwards. It's all right fixing an issue for the time being, but you need to adjust your process to prevent that ever happening again. And I will never shy away from any of the mistakes that I've ever made because they're always an opportunity for learning. And I think that if we can learn from any mistakes that we make, we build a stronger business moving forward. So for me, it's all about capturing that data, interpreting it in the right way. And with the advent of AI, I mean, I am so excited to be doing the projects that I'm doing at the minute. We've got so many intricate pieces putting together, and the picture on the puzzle is looking good.
Very interesting. You mentioned AI, and I'd like to touch on that. Not touch, but kind of explore a bit further. Everyone, well, many people talk about AI. Well, first of all, it's highly generic term, and it's like anything and everything for everyone. But with supply chain, it's much harder to find practical applications of AIs, because AI, I mean, what we call AI these days, most of the time is large language models that are very good with free text. Some of them are getting very good with, yeah, I'm not talking about images and paintings and videos. Some of them are getting good with numbers. Um, but what are the practical applications? So I use AI quite a lot. Well, we use AI to help us code. I use AI quite a lot with various kind of the letters and documentation and analysis. What are the specific use cases that you guys have or build on, if you can share, where the AI is really helping you and opening up the opportunities that did not exist before?
I feel like AI gives you the time to do things that you never would have even considered doing before. So we're looking at data down to a granular level now. For example, we've built a dashboard that pulls in all of the information from DC, the warehouse management system that we're using, Freshdesk, which is our ticket management system, the customer service team communicating with customers, ClickUp, which is our project management tool. These are all integrated through open APIs into a database that's pulling all of the data together and displaying it in a way that the people in those positions can understand, how many overdue tickets do we have? Are we behind on any orders? Where are we at on productivity for the day on any given staff member or any given customer, or any aspect of the business? We're using AI to create ways of viewing this data in a quick and on the move kind of way. So you're not having to deep dive into the reporting system of a particular piece of software and then look at the reporting system of another piece of software. You have a central dashboard where all of this information is appearing, and we can make real-time decisions based upon the information flow that comes into that dashboard. So I'd say that that's the single most impactful thing that we've done so far with AI. But it's far more than that. We use it across the business. Within Cloud9, we don't outsource any of our work. We've got a creative team, which includes digital marketing, web development, software development, and AI exploration. And I think that's a luxury that most 3PLs, don't have. They haven't invested in that area, whereas it's something we've had going now for 5 years. And actually, it's one of the most exciting bits of the business. We're able to be so agile in what we require from our software. We're able to move so quickly that I don't think any of the bigger players are probably anywhere near where we're at in terms of the information we're able to see.
Well, not everyone sees the tech. Not every logistics business, at least from the ones that I saw or spoken with, they treat tech as an integral part or integral enabler uh, to the same extent. that you're describing. Because yeah, no, 100%. I mean, the logistics businesses, they have IT departments. They have some IT that they may have WMS system, but actually, if you look at statistics, even less than half of the businesses, the warehouse operators in the UK, have WMS systems. Yes, a lot of them are kind of the small stores. They manage it manually. So tech is definitely, but it's definitely it's becoming a differentiating factor. And I think, as you were saying, without the tech, the ability to serve customers with such a speed and efficiency and a service level would be impossible, would be unattainable.
Another example, you brought me onto a great example there, Michael. One of the um, pain points for us as a business is dealing with claims. So having to deal with, I don't know, the carrier damages a particular item that's going out. Doesn't happen that often because we use the best carriers in the UK, but it's going to happen no matter which carrier you use. So we have to file a claim on that item. We have to collect information from the customer, relay that to the carrier, wait for their response, sometimes get further information from the customer, go back to the carrier with their response, finally get a resolution from the carrier and update the customer, and obviously credit them with the credit that's due. Um, but the number of touch points there that don't need to be there is just incredible. We're looking at automating that entire process from capturing the data through a form from the customer, transmitting that information across to the carrier in an automated fashion, back to the customer again with the result. And if at any point, obviously someone will be overviewing this process, and if at any point there's anything that doesn't seem right, we're there to step in. But actually, I see you use the word empowered, and I see the word, yeah, that's the perfect word to use, because for me, AI is a superpower. I want to focus my time on where I can be really impactful, where I can make a real difference, add a personal human touch for the customer, build that relationship, fix issues, make things better. I don't want to spend my time collecting details about a shipment that's got damaged. I don't need to do that. So why would I do it? And that's if I encourage anyone who's not fully on board with AI to get on board now, because otherwise you will be left behind. You'll be old news, and that's not my opinion. That's the way it is.
It's pretty much the sense of the people. There's a common sentiment of the people that are actually using the AI. And we had the example that you just gave reminds me very much. So we had a podcast the other day with our CTO, and we talked about AI, and he actually used that phrase. So AI is not a brain; it's a lens through which you can actually really get deep, and it helps you process tons of information. Sorry, tons of data and get information out. And sometimes people don't really appreciate the difference between the data and information, because some data sometimes is just, well, have tons of it, but actually what are the information that can make you act upon it. So this is definitely fascinating area. So what I would like to ask you now is like, how do you look into the future? What do you think the future hold in terms of, there's lots of, well, the AI and LLM models and some other models, analytical models, they are evolving very, very fast. We have new models coming in. We have a lot of tech development in delivery systems like drones, and similar things. We're talking about autonomous driving. So there's lots of evolution happen. At the same time, there's lots of societal pressures that are on logistics businesses. We have a lot of half empty vehicles on the road. The congestion is growing. That the environmental footprint is increasing. So how do you think kind of those trade-offs are going to play out over the next, I don't know, 2 3 years, 4 5 years maybe? What is the futurist in you tells you?
Okay, so I would say AI for me, is about progression, and I don't feel like there's ever been a time in human history where things are about to change as much as they are in the next 5 years. So to put any defined predictions on what will happen in the next 5 years is a very, very difficult thing. I think some of the things that you've mentioned are possible. I wouldn't say that necessarily, like drone deliveries, are they likely to happen? I wouldn't want to hedge my bets one way or the other, but what I do know is that the world is going to change in a way that none of us, even the people who are using AI to its fullest capabilities at this moment in time, can even begin to comprehend, because it's exponential. The speed at which AI is developing is forever increasing, and it's scary in a good way for me what we can achieve, with the same resource that we're currently deploying. And I'm hoping that that will drive savings in all sorts of ways. And I don't just mean cost savings, but um, savings for the environment. You talked about empty vehicles, and there has to be a way that someone really smart can get hold of AI and optimize all of the routes that are happening and cut out lots of the waste that's happening. And it's those things again that are nice to have that you would never have time to invest in finding these niche little areas where you can make marginal gains. That AI, if it interprets the data, can provide the information to make those marginal gains. So for me, that's what AI does. It opens up a world of possibilities that might only have been a thought in the back of your mind, but now become reality because you're able to extrapolate and interpret the data in a way that allows you to make an evidence-based decision rather than it just being some sort of like thought at the back of your mind. So I really see the world changing in a way that I can't begin. I don't want to put a box around it because the box would just blow open no matter what I said. But hold on tight because the world is about to change.
No, absolutely, absolutely agree with you. Well, first of all, there are a couple of things that you mentioned. Is one is that is also very, very close to what we do. What we do at Flox is exactly, and that's the reason I mentioned the half-empty vehicles. And this is precisely what we're trying to kind of look at the network and see how we can help businesses kind of optimize and co-load and co-shape. But globally, I think, and I totally echo your thoughts on, we just need to keep an eye on it. Be flexible, keep an eye on it, and take the most advantages out of the evolving system, because it's going to bring up a lot of. It could be bringing up different business models, different ways to save time, effort, resources, money, focus, lots of things that could very much be impacted. It's absolutely fascinating discussion. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Joshua, for that. What I would love to ask, and I loved asking that for my guests on the podcast, is, well, you've set it up from a ground up. You've seen it grow from basically zero base, and you've seen a lots of growth pressures and operational bottlenecks and challenges and the evolving customer expectations. So, if you had a magic wand today, which can solve instantly one of the issues, one of the problems, one of the challenges in your business, what would it be?
It's a really good question, Michael. And it, if the, there are so many problems that we encounter, or challenges, I like to call them, rather than problems, that we encounter on a daily basis, doing this type of business. Logistics is an imperfect industry. Things go wrong, that's life. There's challenges, there's problems, but it's about who we are as people and how we address those problems and the solutions that we're able to implement and the learnings that we take from them that really drive the progression within the business. So for me, it's a bit of a cliche, but to me, it's true. Every problem is an opportunity. If we've got this problem, can we solve it in a better way than our competitors? Can we be more original with our thinking to come up with a solution? So to look at the specific area that I would focus on, if I could have one, it would be the planning for the business. It's knowing what's going to happen in the next 6 months, because in fulfillment, brands can explode and we scale up seamlessly with that. Brands can drop off and we're able to, scale along with that. But if I had a magic wand, or preferably a crystal ball, I would like to be able to see 6 months into the future to know how the business is going to need to evolve and how the business is going to adapt to cope with the demand. Because I think that's probably the most challenging bit of running a fulfillment business, is we rely on our customers, and the success of our customers is our success. And having a crystal ball that would show me the roadmap of where they're going would be really useful. But failing that, I'm going to use data to give me those trends. and show me the future so I can make data-based decisions about how we plan for the growth of our customers. So I'm hoping that AI is the solution and does give me enough of a crystal ball to be able to at least predict most of the things that happen in the near future.
No, makes perfect sense. But what you were saying kind of reminds me some of those kind of the Star Wars movies where you see the future, but it's a bit vague and you need to interpret it. And I think that's what AI is going to do. It's going to give you, or it's going to give all of us some inputs. It's going to give us some elements and some senses of what the correlations might be and what the forecast might look like. But it will still require human expertise to interpret
100%.
and then subsequently make decisions.
100%. And again, I'm all for doing more doing more with what we've got. I'm not looking to downsize or get rid of any staff or anything like that. I want growth. AI gives me the power to grow more than I ever could have imagined was possible, and I'm all for it. I really want to take that opportunity and run with it, and and set ourselves apart as a company who is always forward thinking, always looking at the next step, always trying to make the difference.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks very much, Joshua. And thank you for joining the conversation today and for sharing your both your journey as well as insights. It's definitely been a fascinating discussion. And to everyone watching or listening, thank you again for staying with us. I hope you found this episode valuable, and I look forward to welcoming you again in the next episode of Chain Reaction Podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. My pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to Chain Reaction. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have a story or insights to share from your sector, we'd love to hear from you. Simply reach out to us through the links in the description. See you next time.